Oh my god, what am I doing? Under the sea, under the sea. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. Na 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 na. Under the hot Caribbean sun. I thought it was in Denmark. Hi, welcome to Just Thinking Out Loud. My name is Desi-Rae. I'm going to talk about another super light pop culture topic that I think shouldn't be an issue, but I'm going to talk about because everybody wants to talk about it. I'm sorry, but it's just too hot to have my hair down. I shouldn't even be wearing this, but I couldn't find something more appropriate because I'm one of those, at this current stage in my life, minimalist people who only have a certain number of shirts and they all kind of look the same, and none of them are for super hot weather that I would feel comfortable wearing on camera. So I'm stuck wearing my turtleneck. So as you probably know, there's a live action version of The Little Mermaid coming out, and Ariel is not European and is actually a black singer artist that I've actually heard of before. Her name's Haley. I'm so bad at people's names. Her name is Haley or Haley. And she's gorgeous, but she doesn't fit the known image of Ariel. Ariel was actually, the design for Disney's version was based off of what's her face? Alyssa Milano, who I also think is pretty gorgeous. And people were not that up in arms about it, but there was a hashtag not my Ariel trending. And it's also important to note that before they had released who they had cast as Ariel, they had also released who they had cast as Ursula, and people were also up in arms about that too, because apparently she wasn't black. But then, it's like people get up in arms about any and everything. So The Little Mermaid is a story of Danish origin that follows the journey of a young fair mermaid who is willing to give up her life in the sea and her identity as a mermaid in order to gain a human soul. I think that's from Wikipedia. In general, whenever I hear of people being upset about one race being cast as a character that's originally another race, I come back to my idea that stories should tell universal themes. It's important to be able to connect with others beyond the physical. I think Haley is quite pretty, and if she possesses the characters of Ariel beyond just how she looks, color is just one of those characteristics, then it's okay. Even if it's supposedly Danish, retold stories are creative in their retelling. Also, apparently Hans Christian Andersen, the author, was actually gay, which does put a twist to everything that people are saying, and it brings up again the universality of themes. So that's immediately what I think about every time I hear this. However, we should also consider the broader context. Is this a marketing tactic? I think it could be, and we should consider that. The Not My Ariel hashtag was actually trended mainly just because people were angry at people maybe having that hashtag. They were angry at not that many people actually being angry about who was cast as Ariel. When the casting was first announced, I was on Twitter around the time, so I saw as it was beginning to trend. And there was one particular account that was receiving a lot of attention, but it was a Jussie Smollett situation where the whole thing was fake. All the pictures were, apparently it was actually some young kid who was white, who was a guy, and he was talking about being, I think, bi or gay or something like that in other posts of his. So the main culprit being against it wasn't even real. There were other people, but it was way more people just being like, oh, it sucks for all the racists, ha ha ha, but not that many actual racists. Maybe people thinking that they just don't say it because they're trying to be wise, but there weren't that many people who were actually against it. I also think it could be a push for actual representation. This story has been told many, many times, and lighter skinned people have also been casted as characters who are historically darker many times. And because it's universal, the story, then why can't someone who isn't white or European play that role? But in my opinion, it just has to be able to work both ways. People can't cry about cultural appropriation, and people having an issue with a white woman playing Ursula, which they did, the same people, it doesn't really make sense. And yes, this is even considering the past and racial injustice. You can't have a principle be an actual principle if it only applies sometimes and not others, depending on the group. You just can't have it both ways, even though I'm sure many people want that because we're flawed human beings. And there's also another really good point that I've heard, and I actually already have thought this for gender bending stuff, where like a woman takes the place of a traditionally male role, like say the recent Men in Black, which I did watch and kind of enjoyed. Or also that James Bond might be in the future a girl too. You aren't actually giving so-called underrepresented people their own original stories. You're just putting them in the shadow of characters that were already there. I was talking to someone about this and they were saying that, well, if they do try to give them original stories, then they don't get as much attention. Well, I think so be it. You know, like for women and for people of color, this is globally, they have a lot of purchasing power, and if they want to support shows that are actually good and they want their original stories to be told, then they should focus on doing that and supporting that. And women also in general make most of the purchasing decisions, so go and support women and don't take away from the men when you're doing it, or go and support underrepresented people and don't take away from the other people. And maybe I think you are still putting this group that you're trying to represent in other people's shoes. And it does depend on how you look at it, since, like I said before, you could choose to just focus on the universality of what it means to be a person and going through emotions. From a creative standpoint, though, Disney could be said to be lazy because they're not coming up with a new story. And there are also non-European stories that can be told that have echoed through the ages. Maybe they won't resonate as much at first, but I think that's just because they haven't really been told yet. If it's told in a compelling way, like the production quality is good and the actors are actually good and it's done well, I think it will last over time. And maybe people aren't used to those stories yet, but they will become more used to it. That's how stories weave themselves into the cultural fabric. And that's how stories and myths work. You just retell them and you retell them and you support them. I also think it's not unreasonable to point out that ethnicity does matter. I was pretty peeved with the Avatar live action by M. Night Shyamalan, how they pronounce his name, when all the who I thought were going to be Asian people weren't. They were white / European. Plus, the film really sucked. So are people being racist? I think they could be, in the sense that there are people who could be bothered by a darker person playing the role that would traditionally be for a lighter person, and then they wouldn't actually be bothered if it were the opposite way around, which it has been many times. But I also think there's some merit in that argument. Like I said, like I was super pissed off about Avatar. So I think many people were actually overreacting to the expectation that there would be racist backlash, but there wasn't actually that much. And it is a legitimate argument, even if I also think other things are legitimate. So I think there are many valid takes on this situation. And I personally don't mind. I would go and watch, mostly because she looks really nice and she can probably sing, to be perfectly honest. I do hope that it's actually executed well, because that can make it suck, and I really hope they don't do that. I also am more interested in watching it now because I've heard about this, and usually when stuff gets racial, I just don't watch it. But because I do like the story of the Little Mermaid, I'm probably going to go and watch it. So it could be a little bit, but I don't think it's really racist, and I don't think it really matters because people retell stories all the time. But I think it also has to work the other way around, where someone like Melissa McCarthy can play Ursula when people who were black were thinking Ursula was black, even though she has purple skin, and apparently she's actually based on someone who is actually white, like an actual drag queen in real life. So there are a lot of double standards around this, but I think it shouldn't matter. And I really like stories that tell themes that we can all relate to, and I think we should learn to connect with people more than this. And I just think most of these takes are valid. I'm probably going to watch this movie. That's what I think about it. So thank you for watching. I think most of you might have been interested in hearing what I had to say about this. You're probably wondering what I would think, and I think it's a super light topic that I almost don't want to spend my time on, but it's also a bit interesting. That's what I think. If you like my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Like if you like it, leave a comment if you want to, tell me your thoughts. Also, you can donate, just thinking out loud.tv/donate. You can also follow me on tons of other platforms. And please remember that my content is fully supported by people like you who listen and watch. So just consider taking the time to make a donation. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for watching. Bye. Bye. Under the sea. Under the sea, darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. Na na na, I don't know the lyrics. Stay. Na 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 na. Under the sea. I sang that song in some play or something when I was younger. I think I was in a play that was at church, and they used they like modified the word so it sounded like all Christian, and then there was something. I just remember singing something like that when I was younger, and I associate it with church. So